What fresh hell is this? Welcome back to Flop Culture. You are indeed listening to Flop Culture, a podcast where I, Fionnuala Jones, speak to an esteemed guest about their favourite flop, as well as bringing you up to date on the latest pop culture news. Hope you're well. I hope you enjoyed last week's episode on Jennifer's Body with Fiona Frawley. The live show, Top of Flops for 2023, is sold out. So thank you very much. I'm very excited. That is happening November 29th. With my good gang, my pals, Padraig Wilson McCarthy, Owen Keane, Carla Kay. I'm very excited to see you all there. Don't forget to keep up the podcast on social media. It's at flopculture_pod. And I would also love your ratings wherever you're listening. 5 stars. If you do leave a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts with a nickname in your review, I will shout you out at the end of next week's episode. And I will give you your little own floppy recommendation for my floppy heart. We are also over on Patreon, patreon.com/flopculture. If you are looking for more content, this month already we have done a look at Taylor Swift's potential NFL PR relationship. Does it go beyond Travis Kelce? What might she be doing? Are NFL engaging in anything? My good friend Daniel Kelly joined me for that episode. This week I'm sitting down with Padraig, who I mentioned earlier, to review the most chaotic series of Love is Blind ever, in some ways. Lots of behind-the-scene dramas going on there as well, so we're going to talk about all that. And also myself and Owen will be starting Fleabag Season 2 very soon, so go check that out. We also did a deep dive into Olivia Rodrigo's most recent album, Guts, for Pop Culture. That was with Cian Sullivan. So yeah, if you want any of that, you know what to do, patreon.com/flopculture. Before we get into our final spooky flop of the season, let's get into the news. Britney is everywhere. Her book, The Woman in Me, is coming out imminently. I think it's October 24th is the official release date. But she seems to have done this deal with People magazine. They're getting a lot of exclusives, a lot of exclusive excerpts. I kind of question that because I feel like this book was going to sell copies anyway. I know that's generally a tactic with any celebrity memoir, but the memoir that there usually is a little bit teased in advance of the book. And I know this is one of probably the most highly anticipated celebrity memoirs ever. But I do question the thought process behind how much information is coming out. I'll get into it. I suppose the biggest bombshell that has come out of this is one from Britney's relationship with Justin Timberlake. In the book, she details her experience of getting pregnant with Justin's child, something that she was very happy about. He seemingly was not, is what she's detailing in the memoir. She says, for me, it wasn't a tragedy, but Justin definitely wasn't happy about the pregnancy. He said we weren't ready to have a baby in our lives, that we were way too young. If it had been left up to me alone, I never would have done it. Speaking about the fact that she had an abortion. She described it as one of the most agonising things I've ever experienced in my life. So now we have people going back and kind of reevaluating the Every Time music video. There is a lot of imagery in that I think people are taking now to mean that it was actually not necessarily even about the end of that relationship, but about this experience specifically, which is, I mean, just incredibly sad. Some other things coming out, I suppose, that directly correlate with that relationship. I think there's another story now that she's basically saying that it was actually Justin that cheated on her and not the other way around. That's how we have the whole narrative of, you know, Justin came out with Cry Me a River and then came out with What Goes Around Comes Back Around. There was this entire narrative that Britney cheated on him. In the book, Britney is like, no, that wasn't the case. She says she knows who it is. She's not naming them specifically because they have a family now and she's happy enough. That has led fans to kind of try and connect the dots themselves. 2 names that I've seen come up, Alyssa Milano, Jenna Dewan. I will say again, all alleged. I do not know anything. But I think the hardcore Britney fans they have their sights set there. That's all I'm saying. She also obviously speaks about the conservatorship. She said she felt like she was never good enough for her father, Jamie Spears. I became a robot, but not just a robot, a sort of child robot. I had been so infantilized that I was losing pieces of what made me feel like myself. The conservatorship stripped me of my womanhood, made me into a child. I became more of an entity than a person on stage. I'd always felt music in my bones and my blood. They stole that from me. I mean, the life she's lived and the scrutiny that she continues to be under with whatever mad thing she wants to do on social media, it's very hard to see it all play out and hear her write about this so candidly. Again, I will say, when I heard that Michelle Williams, the Oscar-nominated actress, was doing the audiobook for it, there were kind of alarm bells ringing for me. But basically, Britney is kind of giving her own justification for that as well with this People exclusive. So Britney is doing the intro, is recording the intro herself, but she's basically said that reliving her story was so emotional and very difficult. So that's why Michelle Williams is narrating the rest of it. And Michelle Williams has come out and said, like, she's obviously very supportive of Britney and everything else. I'm excited is the wrong word to use to talk about reading this book, but I am curious to see what else is covered, because we know, again, if you're to believe any of the kind of media reporting and rumours and stuff like that, Justin was very apprehensive about this book coming out, and Justin's lawyers were very keen on getting a copy themselves before it did come out to see what was in it. I think I'd heard the same around Colin Farrell's people. So I'm like, does that relationship make it into the book at all? Is there anything in there? I don't know. We'll see. I hope, as much as I want this to be a place where she can tell her story truthfully and be heard and rinse the people that she needs to rinse and call them out, I am hoping for some light shed on the positive times and the insight into when times were good. And I can imagine that's probably very hard when so much of it has been under... I mean, the conservatorship was 13 years long. I think people forget that or don't realise that it was as long as it was. But yeah, The Woman in Me, I don't need to tell you, this book's going to sell a bajillion copies. It's out October 24th. Now, from one queen to several others, let's get into this week's flop. Producer Ryan Murphy ruled the 2010s. From Glee to American Horror Story, he could be counted on to produce a hit. So, when it was announced that Murphy would be taking on horror and slasher tropes alongside his co-creators Brad Falchuk and Ian Brennan, fans were optimistic. That, alongside some stellar casting announcements, Ariana Grande, Nick Jonas and Jamie Lee Curtis, alongside long-time Murphy faves Emma Roberts, Lea Michele and Billy Lord. Fans were convinced they had a hit on their hands. But while it did gain a cult following thanks to its characters and particular brand of humour, the show, much like the victims in it, did not survive its second season, despite critics finally coming on board. Joining me to discuss Scream Queens is my very good friend, Cian McCarthy. Enjoy. Cian McCarthy, you are very welcome to Flop Culture. How are you doing? You good?
Really good, yeah. Nervous.
Happy? Nervous?
Yeah.
Why?
I don't know, like I said, you've had a lot of really good guests on, so I want to, like, carry the torch.
Yeah, you were born for this, though. You are going to come back to do something else.
Oh, 100%.
Usually...
I've, like, three things on the go.
Yeah.
One of them, though, will be an intense rewatch because it's basically, like, softcore porn.
Yeah.
But we won't get into
No, we won't get into that now. We won't.
Yeah.
So usually I ask people to pick their own flop, but for this Halloween season...
You didn't give me a choice.
I didn't give you a choice. But, again, the episode I think you were born to do, a lot of people suggested Scream Queens when I asked for Halloween picks.
Yeah.
Their favourite Halloween flops.
Yes.
And I said, every person has a gay in their life that is obsessed with Scream Queens, and if they're not, they are the gay, but you are my gay in this instance.
It was like, 2015? And I think 19-year-old Cian, like, that was my personality.
I think it made you the person you are.
I actually think I've absorbed, like, rewatching it now, the way I speak to my friends...
Yeah.
And the way I treat people very much has been influenced by this show.
This isn't a podcast, yeah. This isn't a podcast. This is actually an intervention because I think you are Chanel.
No, I was actually, because it was only this week we were talking about, well, not us as in we, like I was on about, based on like people's behaviour during the year, like I'll have a review and like demote them to like friend of status. And then rewatching this, I was like, this is where all this has come from.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I am the star of my own show.
Yeah.
Just no one watches.
Yeah. I do, sometimes.
Yeah, no, I think it's very of its time. And like, I took notes. But
before you get into your notes, Screen Queens, for anyone who's not familiar,
okay,
what is it about?
Like, the premise is it's like all these like horror tropes.
Okay.
But like through the eyes of Ryan Murphy, so like everything is camp, everything is gay. And like you've an amazing cast. You've like Jamie Lee Curtis, you've Emma Roberts, Abigail Breslin, you have Nick Jonas, bit of him.
Who is incredible in this.
Light of my life.
So good.
Joy of joys. Keke Palmer.
Also incredible.
A big,
Forgot she was in this.
Like, I just think that the big reason the season, like, the 2 seasons kind of flopped was because they centred the show around the wrong final girl.
Okay,
like,
interesting.
Skylar Samuels, like, I hope she's booked and busy, but like...
Yeah, she's very busy. She's currently starring in The Meg 2, a movie about a big shark.
They really dropped the ball with casting her because she has no charisma on screen.
I was gonna... Yeah, I needed to bring that up. Painful.
Great hats, beautiful hats, but like, that's about it. What is with the hats? And I think they took that on board because... I'd say
they got rid of her, and there's much less hats in season 2. Yeah,
no, she like stops wearing hats about like episode 10 or 11, and I'm like, okay, finally they listened. And then coming into season 2, they did what they should have done, which is make Keke Palmer kind of the heart of the show because she is just so entertaining.
Yeah,
and I don't know, was it like, is it a bit like racism that they did?
Oh no, it 100% is. There's a part of me like
because she could have carried the show 100%.
Outside of this. Like, it boggles my mind. Obviously, Keke Palmer is extremely famous, much more famous now in recent years. But there's a part of me that's like, you should be like Jennifer Lawrence, leading girl.
She should.
The one that people go to that it's like, oh, like she should be in things. But I don't know if it's just because there is like, obviously, the white supremacy of it all. But it's also, I don't know, she does a lot of things.
She does a lot of things, but I just don't. Like, for some reason the interest isn't there, but like, when you see her on screen, like, she's so funny and fucking gorgeous as well.
Divine.
I mean, it just helps.
Yeah, it does.
And also, so Skylar Samuels, who plays the lead girl
in season 1,
actually Grace,
yeah, we just said it.
And her dad, Oliver Hudson, if I never saw him in anything ever again, I wouldn't be upset about it.
I actually really liked him in this. I really liked him in this.
I love normalising, like, the dad bod.
Yeah.
Like, very sexy. And I love that Jamie Lee Curtis is getting her bit and riding him all the time. But, like, I thought
his character was so funny.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, maybe it's just he irked me.
Maybe, yeah, I don't know.
Like,
anyway, sorry,
really
we need to rewind before we go on the hate train of who we hate and who we don't. As you said...
Is that not what this is?
Well, no, it is. It is, but I think if anyone isn't familiar with Screen Queens, which I doubt.
Sorry. Back to the premise. So it's basically like Ryan Murphy came out and he was like, I'm developing this show. He was like, I'm taking Emma Roberts because she was just on the high still from
American Horror
Story. He was like, I'm taking her. I have Jamie Lee Curtis. I'm lining up like this big A-list cast. Ariana Grande's in it. And it's like every episode someone is going to get killed off until there's only one character left, which he went back on because so many characters survive. I was raging. I was like, so when are they all going to get chopped off? Because they're surviving every episode. And I think it's just because he built it up. It's very like, Katy Perry Witness?
Yeah.
Where like she was like, it's going to be like woke, purposeful pop. And then it comes out and you're like, it's not bad, but like, it's not what you said it was at all. And now all my expectations are like, slanted.
Yeah.
So I was like expecting everyone to be killed off, and they weren't.
And you were disappointed by that.
Like, I would say half the cast is still alive at the end of it, and that's not what I was told would happen.
You wanted everyone dead.
I wanted everyone dead, even though, like, you can tell he just fell in love with, like, Abigail Breslin needs to get her flowers because, like, whoever is writing that script, like, I don't know they must run these insults by people.
Now, that's the one thing, right?
Like,
the writing
some of the stuff they are saying to people is vicious.
Some of the writing is really sharp and it's obviously like...
very clever.
So season 1 is based in a college and a sorority
campus.
house.
I keep losing college campus. It's a sorority. It's like this like the definition of everything that's wrong with
Yeah, a lot of the writing, it's like parodying what you'd imagine
Like
like
the
the
Greek
worst white
system.
girl, sorority girl you've ever met is.
Yeah.
And then some of the writing, it's like, as you said, of its time, some of it
it's so
sets the teeth on edge, like,
it's
you know,
very like
not right, potentially.
like you can tell it was just a mean gay man writing all these lines. Like they are so savage.
That's why you loved it?
And like so it's basically like the Kappa Kappa Tau is the sorority that all the Chanels are in. So it's like Chanel Oberlin is Emma Roberts and she's the Regina George to the point where like I think she kicks Regina George out of the water because like she doesn't even know her friends' names. She's just named them after herself.
She
So
is such a good character and she does it. She plays it
She-
so well. Even the wardrobe and anything. I feel like
The
if people
wardrobe
dressed
is-
up as Chanel for Halloween, it's instantly recognisable to those people.
If they could do the whole, do you know, like Taylor's version,
Yeah.
like the whole show again, but just a shoe cam, because I want to see those shoes. Like she's unreal, and like she's named all of her friends after herself. So there's Chanel number 2, played by Ariana Grande. There's Chanel number 3, who's Billie Lourd. There's Chanel number 4, who we don't see because she died of meningitis. And then there's Chanel number 5, who's Abigail Breslin. And like, it's just, it goes from there and she treats them like dirt. And the Dean Munch, who's
Jamie
Lee Curtis, she's stepping in and she's like, you are all so toxic. This year, you have to accept anyone who applies to the sorority and let them in if you want to keep the sorority going, and then it like goes from there. And and then there's like that cold open flashback that I just don't think needed to happen.
What happens
where
in the
it's
cold
like
open
the
flashback
very
again?
first, the start is like 1995 and Kappa Kappa Tau, and one of the sisters like gives birth.
Oh, the baby in the bathtub that like kind of spawns all the murders.
It's like, this is going to be so chaotic. I can already sense. Anyway, it doesn't matter. I'm just like, I can't.
Well, that's the whole conceit of the show. I was texting you being like, I can understand it, but
so
like.
it's very in theme because like I can't follow a narrative, my own thoughts.
Yeah,
so
perfect.
it's going
And
to be
I
tough
couldn't follow this. And I
for
texted you and said as much. And you said, the meanest thing you've ever said to me, you said, you watch episodes of Love Island.
Yeah, so you can follow that and you can't follow this.
I don't know, it was annoying me that I couldn't figure out who it was till the end.
So, but that's part of the
trope.
That you don't know who it is until the end. Anyway, but yeah, so basically this girl dies in the bathtub. I don't know, the acting in that scene just didn't. I just don't think they should have opened with that. But anyway, yeah, you're one of his baby in the bath, and like the girls are like, okay, we'll deal with this, but like Waterfalls is on, and like that's my song. So they go out and they're like, don't go chase. And then they come back to the you're one in the bath and she's dead, and they're like, oh crap. And then Jamie Lee Curtis is like, I want to be like the best dean. What is a dean?
Just head of a college, I think. I don't know.
Like
I'm not American.
Like a principal.
Like a principal, but for a college. Like,
principal, okay.
I'll Google it. You keep explaining.
Do colleges have principal? Anyway, it doesn't matter. So yeah, Jamie Lee Curtis is like, I want my career to like pop off, so I'm going to help you cover this up. So they cover it up, and then it flashes forward to now, which is 2015. So like 20 years later, and there's like a murderer stalking the campus. And he like targets the sorority. He's like dressed up as their mascot,
which is
like
a red
devil, and he's like slowly murdering off anyone associated with the sorority one by one.
Yeah. So they then all start turning on themselves, like the Chanels. There's loads of theories that it's like the dean. It might be someone like you have this fracas over 13 episodes over who
basically
it is.
They're all pointing fingers at each other. Mainly, actually, at Abigail Breslin's character. They're just like, it's you, because they're just horrible to her all the time, which is just so gas to watch. And they keep accusing her of like having teeth in her vagina. It's so gas. And then they like hire Jamie Lee Curtis comes in and she's like, don't worry, I have this sorted. I've like hired security for the house, and it's Niecy Nash, Denise Hemphill, and she
incredible
comedy queen. Like
like
this,
every scene. You said it to me. You were like, she eats up every
scene. None of it makes sense. It's so off the wall. Like, I think that's the thing. You just have to like leave your brain at the door. Like, you're not here for the plot. You're here for like the one-liners, the clothes, and all the girlies just running around the place screaming. But they scream so much as well. They're always always screaming.
But that's what I
is
was
great.
going to say. It makes for like, but this is also probably one of the reasons maybe why it flopped. It makes for like the perfect binge. Like, I think it would have been better as a streaming show because obviously when it came out, it was on Fox. It was like a network show. Didn't really necessarily flop. The ratings kind of went off the deep end by the end of the second season. But actually, people thought the second season was better. How did your more recent rewatch compare to the very first time you watched it?
Season 1, I had the same reaction. I was like, this is gas. Like, it's not like groundbreaking or anything like that. But I did think it was really entertaining. And I think they had something there. I just think it could have done with being like having a few less episodes maybe. Like to tighten up the plot. Like there's some side plots though that are like the whole Chanel where she just has like sending all her Instagram followers like awful presents and she just goes around. It's like, did Taylor Swift do that before or something? And she's going around to like all these like, how would you describe? They're like, sure God, love us kind of thing. And she's going around in like the mini car, like holding their hand. Oh, it's just. She is cruel.
It's so... okay, maybe that's where it lost me a little bit, is the subplot, because there's this whole thing in the middle where, like, Dean's ex-husband is murdered, and then they keep trying to tie it back to the baby in the bathtub.
Yeah, and they're trying to pin it on the Dean, and then you're like, oh, there's another Red Devil. How many Red Devils are there? Who's involved? Very convoluted. And then also, what's that girl's name? She was in SNL. And that's
Cecily Strong.
No, she was like Gigi. She was like the one stuck in the 90s because of whatever trauma she had.
Oh.
She
I know
landed that because she did Kim Kardashian on SNL.
Okay.
And like, I think she got like a bigger profile because of that, because it was like, everyone was like, oh my God, it's so funny. So Ryan Murphy hired her, and I just don't like her character. Grace's dad, poor Oliver Hudson, like, if they weren't in it at all, I don't think it would have impacted the show.
But see, the thing is, I think they needed... Now, and I think I kind of agree with you, but I can also see the argument. Like, Grace's character is also supposed to be the antithesis to what the Chanel is, you know,
Yeah, is that not Keke Palmer, though?
Yeah, but I think,
the antithesis of Chanel is boring. And that's what Grace brought.
No, but it's like
she brought boring.
Yeah, but also like pick me girl. You know, okay, let's talk about the Senorita Awesome of it all, because I think that's the scene that illustrates it best. And never have I had. If you haven't watched Scream Queens, I can't speak. You know this scene because it comes up on TikTok all the time. It goes viral of this girl again wearing a terrible fucking golf hat or something.
Beautiful.
She's
a
beautiful.
Beautiful girl.
Beautiful girls.
But like, just I don't know. Like, how could you even deliver that line? They set her up to fail.
I'm going to put the clip in here, but she's just started at the college. She goes to this coffee shop, and Chanel is after ordering previously this insane coffee order and is annoyed that the barista is
100 degrees.
Yeah, he's fucked it up, right? So then he goes over to take Grace's order, and she's like, can I get one of those pumpkin spice lattes? Freezing though. And then she's like, actually, I don't like any of those fucking hipster coffee things. Ask for something else. And your man is like, I'm in love. And he's like, what's the name? And she goes, Senorita Awesome.
Toe curl. Yeah. 8 years later, my toes are still curled.
Right. 210 degree Trenta 5 shot, no foam, pumpkin spice, half calf, no foam latte for Chanel.
Thank you, coffee donkey. You burned the milk! Learn to make a pumpkin spice latte, you psychopath. Next time, I get you fired. Or worse. Other barista.
Welcome to the grind. How may I help you?
Pumpkin spice latte, please. I want it freezing, though. Actually, I just want a regular coffee. Those white girl pumpkin spice lattes annoy me.
I'm in love. Name?
Senorita Awesome.
You got it. Senorita Awesome.
So I think, even thinking about it now, I'm like, I want to be safe. I think their whole thing was that she was like so anti-Chanel and that brand and stuff, but I think it made her so unlikable in that way.
Because Chanel is so unlikable, she's likable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Whereas I think they didn't go hard enough with...
Yeah, or
Grace.
just, I don't know, is it the acting as well though? She's not for me.
I actually thought the acting was okay. So,
Her.
Okay. So let's do an itemized list.
Right.
What works for you, and
For
then
Grace.
for the show in general. What works for you and what doesn't?
What works? Oh my God! Like, I took notes and all of my notes are insults. Can I start reading them out? Because I think
Perfect.
it's the one-liners, right? So Haggy Gyllenhaal, Pissy Spacek, Predatory Les, who looks like Bruce Lee if he DJ'd, Deaf Taylor Swift. Then I have some quotes as well, right? So it's like, we're gathered here today because a backstabbing little bitch got exactly what was coming to her. They constantly refer to each other as heifers, turdlets, or manatees. Brainless gash. Looks like the bitch apple didn't fall far from the bitch tree, and your underwear is relieved to be touching actual human genitals. Like,
You know the line that
all
I
that
have
above.
down? There's one point where Niecy Nash's character, the security guard turned policewoman, she ends up wearing a load of Abigail Breslin's clothes.
Yeah.
And she goes mad. And she's like, why are you wearing my clothes? And Niecy Nash is like, what? I think the bigger question is, why do you have the body of a 40-year-old woman? That got me. I did laugh out loud.
Savage, like, so mean.
I also did laugh. You know, when your man is doing his Matthew McConaughey impression, Grace's love interest, who's the barista who ends up being one of the when he ends up being one of the Red Devils. That was
quite
so funny.
Attractive.
He is very attractive.
He was very beautiful.
I need to get that actor's name very quickly.
Diego Boneta.
Has he done much else?
He doesn't need to.
You're happy enough.
Yeah, I'm happy enough.
The thing for me with this is, right, I remember all the hype around it when it came out, and it was like, it's Ryan Murphy, he does all these anthology series he's having such success with. Like, Glee had just finished, so he was coming out the end of Glee, but like still kind of riding the high of American Horror Story before that went off totally the wagon. But then you had all these big names, obviously Emma Roberts, as you've already mentioned, Ariana Grande, Abigail Breslin, Nick Jonas. Glenn Powell wasn't probably really a name at this point, but he's also fucking great in this.
Oh, Glenn.
He's so...
Do you know what?
Never has anyone committed more to a role and
I
just...
wish you'd watched a bit more of season 2, because in season 2 he comes back and it's just, he's so funny.
I will have... We're recording a bit in advance. I will have finished season 2 by the time this comes out.
He's good crack. Very funnily. And it's just the fact he's riding everyone. Like, he's riding Emma Roberts, he's riding Niecy Nash, he's riding Jamie Lee Curtis. Like, there's a scene in season 2 when Niecy Nash, who's now special agent, I don't know how she got into the FBI, but she's in the FBI anyway now. And there's a scene of like her having flashbacks of when her and Chad were like together, like they were like friends with benefits, and they like did role playing, and she was like, oh, Halloween, like the role playing got a bit more steamy, and like there's a whole scene of them dressed up as the two lads from Brokeback Mountain being like, I can't quit you, and it's just so she's like, why can't I quit you? Oh, it's just so funny, like.
Okay,
it's just like, I think it's a certain type of humour, and if it's your humour, it's like, it's for you. Do you know what I mean?
What about the horror element of it then? And like the slasher, well, it's more horror, slasher than horror.
It's very camp.
Yeah.
It's very camp. I think it got a bit, not spookier, because it's not scary, like.
You don't find it scary?
No, I don't think so. Like, it can be a bit gory, but I think it's so camp that even if it was like intending to be a bit spooky, it couldn't possibly be. Like Ariana Grande's death scene, and she's like texting your man.
Yeah, that was so
like
funny.
And it took me a while to get it as well. I was like, I don't like, so the killer arrives and like, or like he texts her phone, like, so it's like the Scream trope, except it's a text, and he's like, open the door, and she opens the door and the killer comes in and she's like, oh my God, what are you doing? And he's like, I'm gonna kill you. And she's like, but like the scene is completely silent.
Yeah,
they just do it over text, which I thought was quite funny.
I think that's, of course it's a Scream reference. Why didn't I get that?
Yeah,
there's
so
a lot
of, and they do like more kind of in the second. Oh, we haven't mentioned Leah Michele.
Very good in this as well. Terrible person.
Terrible person. Amazing actress. She needs to lean into playing Unhinged more, because Hester,
so just playing herself,
is
spitting on myself.
Probably art imitating life. She's completely unhinged. And then in the second season, they lean into a bit more of like, you know, the tropes of horror, and they do Silence of the Lambs.
Okay.
So she's like Anthony Hopkins' character in Silence of the Lambs. Because obviously, like, so this season, are we allowed to talk about the end of it?
Yes.
Okay, so like the season ends, Hester was one of the babies in the bath. Loads of people have been murdered, and she ends up framing the Chanels.
Yeah,
and
so they end up going to prison and she doesn't.
The Chanels get committed to an asylum for the criminally insane, blah, blah, blah. And then you come into season 2, and the start of season 2 is set up like, there's a montage of like, it's almost like Making a Murderer with the Chanels, which I think they should have leaned into a bit more because it was quite funny.
Well, they reference that, don't they? That it's like Jamie Lee Curtis is talking about it, and it's her inner monologue, and she's talking about that she hadn't thought about them, but then Netflix made a documentary about them, and they kind of blew up.
Yeah.
It's very funny.
And then there's like a clip of like Hester and Denise Hemphill, and she's like, basically like confesses that she's like, yeah, I murdered everyone. I was the Red Devil, but she was like, it's double jeopardy. And Denise Hemphill is like, what? And she's like, you can't be tried for the same crime twice. And she was like, you weren't tried for it. And she was like, but the crime was tried. And she goes, but you weren't. So the Chanels are out of prison then in the second season. They've been cut off from their family, so they've like no money. And then for some reason, the dean is like now running a hospital. So it's set in a hospital. And there's also someone died back in the day in the hospital, and goes from there.
Who is the worst death, in your opinion,
The worst
across
death?
the
Oh
two
my God,
seasons?
deaf Taylor Swift.
Yeah, not great.
Mowed off.
Yeah.
And
Head
didn't even
mowed
know
off.
because she's deaf, so she's just like singing. They're all buried up to their heads. It was like a hazing thing. And then one of the Red Devils comes along and like
Drive on lawnmower.
drive on lawnmower and goes over her head, and she's like, what?
I don't know, who Sam, predatory les, asphyxiation.
Oh yeah, that was a bit dark. Yeah. Also predatory les, like so problematic.
It's some of it is so
problematic.
towing the line. But again, if you were into Ryan Murphy, if you were into that humour, if you were into any of his shows, like you were eating this
like,
up by feet.
It's like, do you know if anyone watched Glee, like Santana had some like savage lines, and it's just basically...
It's that for 2 seasons and people are getting killed in the middle.
It's just like whoever was writing her lines just wrote an entire show of just savagery.
Jamie Lee Curtis in this, I don't know if you know this, she would have a thumbtack in her hand and would squeeze it to stop her from laughing and ruining the takes during funny scenes.
I think because you can see like there's especially like I think it's like, is it the last episode of season 1 where they're being arrested and Emma Roberts goes for it. She's like,
they all seem like they're having so much fun.
Like I think inside everyone is like this really privileged, belligerent, like adult child who's just like, and she just plays that so well.
Yeah.
She's the definition of, like, she's getting arrested and she's just like fully like flopping. So like the police like can't drag her out. She's like, ah! Like it's just, if you just even watch her when the camera isn't on her and she's just going for it and like kicking, and it's just, she's gas. I don't think she gets her
flowers,
her dues.
Yeah.
No. I think she's a bit typecast.
Well, like, that is kind of the thing as well, isn't it? Because is her character not... Now, I know American Horror Story is an anthology as well. I've never seen it. Probably never will. I don't know. Maybe that can be another flop we get into at some point. But is her character in the early seasons of American Horror Story not very similar?
There's a season 3... her character, Madison Montgomery, is very that. But it's much more serious. Like, she's an awful person. But there's no like real comedy.
There's no comedy. There's no levity. Yeah.
And then the second season she's in, there's like they try and I think he was maybe trying to give her a bit more like variety because she's kind of like the nice girl, but like also not. I don't know. I think he's a bit obsessed with her, Ryan Murphy.
Yeah, and then there's
I think if he was like, if I was to be a girl, who would I be? And he's like, I'd be Emma Roberts. And I'm going to cast her in loads of things. And like, make her wear really nice clothes.
Fair play. And I'd say she's getting that good Ryan Murphy money. Good for her.
I respect her so much because there's absolutely no spray tans. She is leaning into the true paleness, and I would like her skin.
You like to be represented on screen.
Yeah, I do. And like, do you know, there's a scene, I think it's like the first episode, and she's in this tiny skirt, and like the complexion of her legs is like HB Raspberry Ripple, like it's pink. But you're just like, yeah, she's stunning and pale, and
we love it.
Yeah.
Do you know who the same cannot be said for?
Ariana.
Oh, I was going to say Ariana Grande.
Yeah,
Jessie Nelson's not in Scream Queen.
Oh yeah, well, sorry, just thought you were.
Ariana, this is around the time of the aggressive tan for Ari. Our gal Ari. It's bad.
When you look at it now, and you're like, I actually don't remember her being that dark.
I was about to be like, how did no one say anything? But actually a lot of people were. And we were all just
I
kind of
think
like,
as
la
well,
la la.
like, yeah, you were like, oh, she's gorgeous. But like, you can
Well, I also fully believed
it's also
she was...
terrible tan as well.
Yeah.
Like, it's not...
Yeah, it's not good. It's not great.
She's not on those, what are they? What's the new...
The tanning inhaler.
Yeah.
But no, absolutely not. Flap culture does not endorse.
No, not at all,
tanning
but I can
inhalers.
see, like, if you're going for an even fake tan, like... do you know what I mean? There's no blotchy, there's no running, it's not gathering in your fingers.
Yeah, okay.
you know
We're
what I
going to
mean?
move
Anyway,
swiftly along
forward.
from this. So the first season kind of got very mixed reviews. I'm going to read a couple of reviews too and see what you think. So Rotten Tomatoes, the first season has an approval rating of 68%, an average rating of 6.3 out of 10. The critical consensus reads, too tasteless for mainstream viewers and too silly for horror enthusiasts. Scream Queens fails to satisfy. But then we have Brian Lowry of Variety. He also says, Murphy's real genius stems from an ability to promote his shows through concept and casting, the trade-off being that those qualities have a bad habit of trumping execution. The big reveal in the finale wasn't particularly revealing, mostly because the narrative has been such a madcap mess in the preceding weeks that my suspense had dissipated long ago. Thoughts? They are kind of...
Is he straight?
damning reviews. I don't know Brian Lowry personally.
Well,
and I don't
I
plan on
think we
knowing
can
him.
assume, we can speculate on Brian. Like, the show isn't for Brian Lowry. It's not. Do you know what I mean?
I think, but
I don't think
will
it's trying
say,
to be tasteful.
Yes, I agree with that. I will say, I started making this point
Liquid
earlier
gold
and then
colonics for
forgot.
sluts. What about that is, do you know what I mean? For young sluts. No, of course.
It's
What's
them
another word?
eating the cotton balls, like the fact that they never eat, like, and
Yeah.
the cotton balls dipped in barbecue sauce.
Yeah. So that they don't get a blockage.
I can't. But sorry.
Consider doing the human race a favour and get sterilised so the human race isn't exposed to your DNA. Like, sincerely, Chanel Oberlin. Like...
Okay, but I suppose my point, I was trying to make this earlier and I got on a different train of thought then, was I didn't watch this at the time it was released. I think I saw the Mall Black Friday episode. It was on MTV over here. It was a Fox over there, MTV over here. Saw the Mall episode in passing, didn't see anything else. For me, I just remember there being so much hype around it, and I remember also hearing that theory about everyone getting killed and people are kind of tuning in to see Ariana Grande getting killed. But like beyond that, I heard nothing else about the show. Now, I will also say I'm a horror person. I'm not really a
Hear me drinking.
slasher person. It's fine. Close your mouth. No, listen. So maybe that's why it didn't appeal to me either. But then I feel like when the second season came around, it wasn't even, and they added lots more names for the second season. So you've Kirstie Alley, you've Taylor Lautner, you've John Stamos.
Who keeps hiring Taylor Lautner?
I can't believe how late this came out that Taylor Lautner was in it. I was like, that. Oh, so he has just actively been kind of working and plodding along.
But has he though?
Well, I think maybe
I
they've
just
sent,
think like all
just
the money
praying
he made,
for Taylor Swift to re-release Speak Now.
all the money he made with Twilight, would he not have invested that back into actually going to acting classes? Like, I'm not saying I could act either, but I'm not being cast in television shows. He is, yeah, it's just
He doesn't work for you in season 2.
He's the Skylar Samuels
in
of
season
2.
Interesting.
Do you know?
Interesting. But anyway, my whole thing was that even the hype by season 2 had died down. But generally, the critics actually think the second season is better.
Yeah.
It's a better rating on Rotten Tomatoes. It's at 83%. Average rating is 7.12 out of 10.
Yeah, it's actually, it's just seeing them try to adapt now, them being the Chanels. So it's the three of them have been hired as like medical interns by the dean. I don't actually know why she's
because that's never really clear. She's bought this hospital or is working with this hospital. She wants to make it like the best hospital in the world.
She has she thinks she has a rare disease.
Okay.
And that she's dying, so she set up this hospital specifically to treat rare diseases that aren't looked at. John Stamos is one of the doctors. Taylor Lautner is the other one, and it's basically like called the Cure Institute. So they like, one of them is like this woman, and she has some chromosome disorder, and she's covered in hair. She's like
that's Cecily Strong.
Yeah, Cecily Strong, and they like treat her, and then she's treated, and it's like, oh fab, like this is going to be amazing, and then like she gets murdered, and there's like the masked killer who this time is the Green Meanie, I think, is like killing all the patients they've cured. Yeah, and it goes from there, and then it's like, I don't know, there's like some really funny, witty lines, like them being like fish, like they're living together, they're trying to cook. It's basically like this, like there's tones of like the simple life.
Okay.
Because like the Chanels are like, they've never worked a day in their lives and they've never planned on working, and then it's like the staff, like, why are they here? Like, they're not doctors.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But do you think that's also maybe one of the reasons why it flopped, that it was because it was taken out of that college setting?
Because I didn't remember, I remember not enjoying the second season as much, but watching it now, I enjoyed it more. Yeah.
Because when we did this originally, you were like, you probably don't need to watch season 2.
And then I was watching season 2 and I was like, oh, I'm actually enjoying this.
Okay.
Yeah, and like Kirstie Alley's in it, she was great. She plays like an unhinged, she's like the director of nursing, she's like unhinged, but she has like her own plot line going on. Because like, can I spoil for you?
Yes.
So like, do you know Miss Bean in season 1?
Yeah.
Who's like, oh
Gets her
shit,
face burned off
the
by...
most awful death, 100%.
Actually, yeah, sorry, that, and literally sets up the series.
Yeah.
Like, again,
And actually
Miss
one of the
Bean
most awful, truly awful lines in the entire show is directed at Miss Bean in like the first episode.
Oh yeah, but
I'm actually not going to say it on the pod.
Do not repeat it.
But
Absolutely
like,
not.
that kind of sets, I don't think they go, it doesn't really set they don't really go that dark again.
No, they don't, but
it was
that,
a truly awful line.
That death sets it up because she's like the maid in the Kappa house,
Yeah.
Kappa Kappa Tau, and Chanel is just awful to her. So Chanel is planning on like pulling a prank. Yeah, she's planning on pulling this prank, pretending that she's going to burn Miss Bean's face off to put off people from applying to Kappa.
Yeah.
Because she's like, I can't have all these randos applying.
In like a deep fat fryer.
Yeah, but then someone turns on the deep fat fryer. So when she does it to Miss Bean, she ends up actually burning her face off. Yeah, that's horrific.
And all the pledges are like...
That's Final Destination vibes, isn't it?
Yeah, very. So Kirstie Alley then in season 2, she's Miss Bean's sister, and she's like, I'm gonna fuck these bitches up. Like, she's out for revenge.
Out for revenge.
But then there's also another plot line, so she teams up with someone else who's like murdering, has their own motives for murdering people.
Okay.
And then, sorry, I forget that I can curse, but like...
You can, it's fine.
Oliver Hudson fucking comes back then as well.
Your enemy.
Oh, he's back in it, and then he's out for revenge because Skylar Samuel's character she's lost the plot and now she's in a mental institution after season 1.
No, you don't care.
No, I don't care. So then
They should have been obvious when she was wearing those fucking hats.
Yeah, I know. And he says that actually, he's like, I should have noticed when she stopped wearing her hats. And I was like, yeah, well...
She didn't
want...
the actor didn't want to be in season 2 because she wanted to go to college.
Oh, did she?
And look at her now, she's in the Meg 2. Yeah, the Meg 2.
Delighted for her. I want to go to college. We all want to go to college.
We all want to college.
We all want to higher education.
Why do you think it flopped then, ultimately?
I just think it's very niche, and I think it would benefit now from like the streaming era, because I think a lot of, like, I think it's the same with music and streaming. It's like the metrics for measuring how good something is, or like, you know, viewership is much different now. You know, it's not like a sit down, and it was never going to be something that people would sit down and watch in their front room. Do you know what I mean? Whereas,
but it also, because of the themes, I suppose, it was never going to attract the family audience that, maybe not necessarily American Horror Story, because obviously that goes dark, but like Glee, you can, like, everyone was watching that.
Yeah.
Whereas, like, if you're not into like horror or slasher stuff, you probably avoid Scream Queens.
Yeah.
Because you think it might not be for you, but there are actually things for people if you give it a chance.
I think it has a cult following now because it's very like, do you ever see The Heathers?
No, I actually haven't.
With Winona Ryder.
I will watch it eventually,
Doherty.
that's desperate.
It's very much like an updated version of The Heathers.
Okay.
Because that's like quite dark as well, but very funny. Do you know what I mean? And I think they took a lot of cues from that in this, and you can see it. But yeah, no. I think all round it's an enjoyable viewing.
An enjoyable watch. What would a third season or a reboot look like for you? Because I know Ryan Murphy in 2020, now nothing else has come of this since, so I don't know if he's just saying things.
I was reading about 2022, they were talking about it again.
Yeah.
Emma Roberts was like, yeah, I'd 100% do it.
So I think someone said, I think he said previously that Emma Roberts and Jamie Lee Curtis would be up for doing it again. And then in May 2020...
Curtis, I'd watch her in anything.
Truly.
Like, she is just...
Beyond.
There's a scene where she's in like, do you know, like the 1980s like workout leotard in the second season, and like the bod.
I'm obsessed with her.
She's just...
It's when they do the psycho shower scene as well, and she's like, I've seen that movie.
Yeah.
Because it's like it's her parents.
Yeah,
like,
it's very
just so
meta.
good.
And like there's like that whole... she's just so funny. It was like, it turns out anyway in the second season, do you know the way she set up this institute, they think that she's like Karoo, which is like this rare disease that like tribes in Papua New Guinea get from like ritualistic cannibalism of their like dead, and she thinks she has that and she's dying, but it just turns out that like she's extreme dehydration because she's a raging alcoholic and doesn't drink water. And they were like, wait, what do you brush your teeth with? And she's like, scotch. And they're like, she's like, I'm cured.
I love her.
Yeah.
I love her. Anyway, May 2020, someone commented on an Instagram post of his asking for more episodes of Screen Queens, and he said working on that, and then I think there were some updates to their Screen Queens social accounts.
Yeah.
So anyway, what does a season 3 or a reboot look like to you? It like two separate questions, I suppose.
I think you can't do it without Emma Roberts. You'd need to have I think you'd have to have them all back,
Okay.
really, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
Like the three Chanels, you'd want Jamie Lee Curtis, you'd want Keke Palmer back. Plot-wise, though, was there ever much of a plot anyway? I think just really savage writing and really cool wardrobes.
Yeah.
And, yeah.
Where would you set it?
Where would I set it? I don't know. I was actually thinking about that because, like, if they're like, what's another, like, it wouldn't really work in. Do you know if they did like a summer camp? Do you know if you're thinking of like all the tropes? I don't know. What would you think? Like, I didn't even when they said the hospital, I was like, a hospital?
Yeah.
Question mark?
That's what kind of threw me off, I think, but I'm trying to think of where else. The summer camp might work.
Yeah, because like the season.
They could be sent
2...
for like, what you call it? What do people do when they go to prison and they have to, community service. Like the Chanels go for community service. And
because like it ends like and they're, like the season ends and Chanel is now a TV doctor.
Okay.
Takes over the position from Brooke Shields, another amazing guest star. It's kind of like Dr. Oz, or it's like, what is it? Love in the Sea with Dr. Chanel Oberlin. And then it's like, she's like finishing up, like, I don't know where Abigail Breslin's gone in it, but Billy Lord is like her producer on the show, so they're like, you know, living life, blah, blah, blah. And she leaves set and gets into her car, and then she's like, what's behind me? And it's like the Red Devils in the back car, and she's like, ah! So
Okay.
I don't know, but then I'm like, would they just abandon that altogether? Maybe because they did that in the end of season 1. That's just maybe they're.
I started thinking maybe a hotel, but then that's just American Horror Story
Or if they
Hotel
just
or
did,
White
like,
Lotus.
I think it could be funny if they did a whole like, do you know, like, what's that? Do you know, girl in the window across the road from the train?
Oh, Kirsten Bell's in it.
Yeah,
Kristen Bell.
do you know if they did like that kind of trope of like, I don't know, is she just in the house losing the plot? Is she a housewife on? They could do like a Wisteria Lane thing.
Yeah.
And she's just losing the plot down a cul-de-sac.
Yeah.
Do you know?
Interesting.
That could be good.
Yeah. We'll have to wait and see if they bloody do it.
Maybe, because I feel like she's having a bit of a renaissance.
Well, she's in the upcoming... I don't think this will be out by the time maybe it will be, I don't know, but the upcoming American Horror Story Delicate with... You're talking about Emma Roberts.
Yeah.
Opposite Kim Kardashian.
Yeah.
You do not look amused. The people who are watching the video can't see, but you look unimpressed.
Yeah.
Thoughts?
Cara Delevingne?
Well, I mean...
Please.
When did American Horror Story jump the shark for you? Because you watched kind of a lot at the start, and I feel like...
I enjoyed the first 3 seasons. I didn't get... 4th season wasn't for me, but I watched it just because Jessica Lange is... Everyone should watch
That's
anything.
Coven, is it?
No, that's Freak Show.
Okay.
Everyone should just watch anything ever that she's in. Hotel was fine. Again, beautiful hotel, lovely hotels. I enjoyed season 6. I actually thought that was the scariest one in a while. That's like Roanoke. It's like a house in the middle of nowhere, and you know, spooky things happen, which is kind of the plot for all of them, really, isn't it?
Yeah.
The cult one was okay. Apocalypse, I was like, but they just brought back all the witches, so you're like, yeah, that's gay, I'll watch that.
Perfect.
And then after that, I was like, they'd like a summer camp season 1984. Emma Roberts was the lead. Stunning, as always, but like the plot was like, I'm not here for it. It was so shite.
Okay.
Absolute shite. I feel like I'm retconning some of them as well to be better than they actually were.
Maybe.
Has it been shite since maybe the 4th season? Probably.
Look, we'll see when we do a full recap season on Patreon, probably.
But if you just, I don't know, like, it's all these beautiful women wearing beautiful clothes. Like, what's not to love?
Leave your brain at the floor.
Yeah.
And Scream Queens is very similar. We
The
should go as them for
epitome of
Halloween
that.
at one point. I'd actually go as Grace.
You always ask me to do Halloween things.
Don't
We'll
start.
do this for Halloween. We'll do
Don't
this.
start.
We have this idea.
Don't
and
start.
none of it
Don't
ever
be nasty now.
materialises.
Don't be nasty now, Mike. Come on.
No, it is all
I'll
right.
be Grace and I'll wear the stupid hats and you can be Chanel.
I'm not going if you're going as Grace.
Okay. Why? It'd be so funny though. Senorita
like-
Awesome.
Yeah,
I'm actually going to do that for Halloween
do you know
even if we
what?
don't do it together. That's so funny. I get a
Yeah,
Starbucks
make
cup
me-
and I write Senorita Awesome on it.
All right,
And
okay.
a cap and a blonde wig. Perfect. And the
But no
people
one's
who
gonna get it.
No, the gays will. I will be feeding the gays and that's
I
fine.
don't know, because I feel like people just have like face blindness for Skylar Samuels. Like no one knows who she is.
Yeah.
Do you know, no offense. I hope she doesn't listen.
She does. I was texting her earlier. Kim, what a pleasure. It's been fun to have you.
Yeah, I love you.
On the podcast. I love you too. You will be back. Where
Yeah, I have
can
loads of
people...
plans.
Oh, you do have loads of
don't
plans.
think-
We have loads of plans.
Yeah, we do.
Beautiful
we
plans.
do. Beautiful, loads of plans.
Beautiful
Beautiful
plans.
I can stop
Where can
that.
people find you? Can I
don't
just
think
use
people,
this as
I don't
a...
think people want to find me.
Well, I was going to say I could just use this as a dating
Are you plugging
opportunity for
yourself?
you.
Oh yeah, like if people want to, if
Where
you know
are
any
you on
wealthy Leslie McGuire
Yeah.
on Instagram, if you want to follow me, it's just basically me trying to look sexy on the internet.
Perfect.
Yeah, I don't have really any interesting thoughts to share. I just
That's great because we just did a
post-
podcast.
I just post music that I like and think that everyone listens to it. Then when I put it up on my story, that's about it, really, isn't it?
Yeah. They definitely don't.
Oh, and we're going to Greece soon as well, so they'll see all that.
Yeah. Well, actually, well, this is coming
So
out of Halloween, so
behind-
Greece will have happened.
Oh, will it?
Yeah.
Oh, right, okay. Never mind. So
Okay.
forget about Greece. Forget about it.
Kim McCarthy.
I had a great time.
I had a great time too.
I do.
Let me do my
Oh, right,
fucking
sorry.
outro.
Sorry, I thought you were talking to me.
I am. That's the
But
whole
it's not
purpose of a
really if I can't
podcast.
respond.
No, yeah.
Okay, go on, so.
Kim McCarthy, thank you so much for joining me on Flap Culture and let me finish this outro. I appreciate it.
Love you.
A big thank you to Cian. He is actually going to join me over on Patreon later this month because we're going to Madonna's celebration tour in Antwerp. We're going to the second night and we will be reviewing it after. So if you want to hear our thoughts on that, head on over there. You know where it is. I have finished the second season now upon recording. And look, I will say, it's as madcap as ever, but just for me, I do think it had lost the steam of the first season. I think the shock value had dissipated too much. And I think that's why viewers kind of ultimately switched off. And I do think we had just gotten to a point of, and to be honest, I still think we're kind of in the midst of it. And me and Cian have this conversation during the episode. You'll hear there about even like with American Horror Story. Like if we were to talk about shows from him that have actually been like very good in terms of critical and not commercial success, but in terms of actually having eyes on them. It's hard to give an example, you know what I mean? He's very prolific, but he's also, and when I say he, I mean Ryan Murphy, it's just very specific and you're either on board or you're not. And even kind of reliving this show for this episode, even when I was pulling the clips for the coffee order scene and like some of Chanel's dialogue is like reprehensible. And it's obviously supposed to be because she's supposed to be this, you know, what's the word? Like stereotype, white girl, sorority person, etc., etc. That's also kind of hard to stomach now, knowing what we've learned about Emma Roberts since and some of her on-set behaviour. Angelica Ross recently spoke out about her experience on set with Emma. Wasn't great. Emma apparently rang her and apologised privately. All that said, I think it's a product of its time, and I think there is an acknowledgement that a lot of what happens in the show is parodying. It's such a very hard word to say, and I have to say it so often on this podcast. But it's taking the mick out of these scenarios, these types of people, these situations. And you know what? It still remains a lot of fun despite it all. And I think we need to retroactively give Glenn Powell an Emmy because Radwell forever. I mean, that man needs to be doing comedy. We need to get him out of planes and not doing action movies, right? I know he's in that one with Sydney Sweeney coming up. Anyone But You. We will be seated, girls. I will be seated. But my God, just brilliant. Glenn said, the director said, take 5, and Glenn said, change lives. You know what I mean? Every day on set. I love it. Love it, love it, love it. And would recommend for anyone who hasn't watched. But I will say, go in with your eyes open, okay? Finally, top of the flops. Not a hard one this week, guys. Not a hard one.
You're a flop.
Look, okay, I actually was going to specifically direct this at Jada Pinkett Smith, right? But I think we need to go wider, and I think Will does need to be included because I think this is a situation that the two of them have both created. And I will also say, I think we as in the general public should be in on being top of the flops because it's us that put them there, right? For so long, they were, you know, couple goals, and it seemed like they were kind of the most truthful Hollywood couple because that's what we demand so much of famous couples, famous married Hollywood couples. We want that transparency. We want the honesty that they're all shagging around each other, that they're not like totally committed to each other and committed to monogamy and stuff like that. And to be honest, they've given that to us more often than not. And then we've laughed back in their face and turned it into a meme. Like even with the August Alsina entanglement affair declaration from a couple of years ago that Jada made at Red Table Talk. But right, this recent week now of, again, and they're not leaks because she's doing promotion and she's doing interviews for her memoir, Worthy, which is where all these stories are coming from. Like, there's nothing left to be read in the book for the amount that's coming out about this. So first we had the story that, you know, they've been separated since 2016. They've been separated for however many years that is. I'm not doing math right now. They've been separated for that many years, right? So when the Oscars slap happened, when Will Smith went up and slapped Chris Rock for making a comment about Jada Pinkett Smith at that year's Oscars, apparently they were not together, right? This story comes out and I'm like, this is okay. And I put it to my followers. I was like, right, is this true? Do we believe that this is true? 100% true? Or do we believe that, you know, yes, it's true that they're separated, but the timeline isn't correct? And a lot of people replied and they were like, respectfully, Fionnuala, I don't care. And you know what? I appreciate that. But it's got me in my PR brain. Like initially it really seemed like this was all kind of damage control to maybe explain why Will did what he did. And then I was talking about it with other people and they were like, well, no, from my perspective, it actually kind of makes it look worse and makes it like less make sense. Then you have the revelation that Chris Rock apparently knew that they were separated and he wanted to take her out on a date. Does that also feed into why Will slapped Chris? I don't know. I mean, it's just like bombshell after bombshell after bombshell. Will is giving his own statements to New York Times in which he's basically saying that, you know, like, I read the book and I wish I'd hugged you more now. And Jada's like, we're never going to get divorced. I'm never giving up on him, but like, we're not living together, but we want to get back together. And now there's talk about the two of them writing a book together called Don't Try This at Home. Have you ever actually thought about having a conversation just with each other? You know what I mean? I find it very interesting, this whole thing of the kind of radical transparency that they've taken on as a celebrity couple, as a brand, even individually, and with the Red Table Talk brand, and how, look, again, we've benefited from that when they've had celebrities to the table, like, I don't know, the best examples are probably Jordan Woods, post the Jordan Woods, Tristan Thompson cheating scandal, in inverted commas, and your one, Olivia Jade, the college admission scandal thing. Like, if they weren't so kind of transparent and upfront and honest, we wouldn't have had that interview style, you know what I mean? And those revelations, they wouldn't have gone to other platforms to give those, you know, exclusives. But there is just a thing of like, and you're seeing reports now, and again, am I to believe this? Who knows? Are these being leaked from their own camp? Probably not, because it doesn't make them look great. But you're reading reports that like Jada and Will have 2 children together, Willow and Jaden, And apparently they're kind of not really happy about how much this is playing out in the press and how they wish some of it was still kept private, and how their dad is kind of taking another beating now for all of this post the Oscars and stuff like that. I don't know, like, this is... Because you're seeing the public turn. You're looking at the conversations and how it's kind of being memed again, but in a way that's also like you're reading the comments of things. Like, I think Vulture has an article up about the memoir now of Worthy, and like the caption that they wrote to coincide with the image of Jada on their Instagram feed is very like, Jada's at the centre of this, unapologetically Virgo and blah, blah, blah. You know the way Vulture says things. I have it here now. Jada Pinkett Smith stays centred on herself, but she does talk about the slap and Will Smith and ayahuasca. It is in many ways the most Virgo book of all time, and in indulging in her success, she takes back her narrative, so long tied to Will, to stake her claim on her career, her work. But like, you read the comments then, and the comments are just... Well, actually, I thought this comment was really interesting. I have mixed and confused feelings about her persona, and she projects in this book promotional circus she is in. I kind of dig her. This is a quote now. I kind of dig her. Here I am. This is my attitude. Take it or leave it. And other times I find her insufferably pretentious. And that is like a great point, because she has been tied to Will for so long. And it was very much like, we definitely do this thing and we shouldn't. And I've done it before and I try not to. But again, internalized misogyny, it does just happen. Where you're kind of going to the woman to explain the actions of a man that they're tied to. And that... A lot of people are doing that in the wake of the Will Smith slap, you know? And I know she was directly referenced, and I know there's talk of, again, because it's such a Hollywood thing, it's like, was it staged? Did she know? Blah, blah, blah. But like, going to women and kind of going with their hands open, being like, okay, now it's time to explain why this man did this. You have to explain it. You have to justify it. So I get her wanting to write a memoir. She's obviously allowed to share her story. Her story is ultimately very tied to Will. Talking about the slap generates more headlines, but it's just, when is enough enough? You know what I mean? And how much is it them actually gaming the system as well? Because you have her doing these podcasts. She did On Purpose with Jay Shetty, and Will Smith wrote her this letter in response to the memoir as well, to be like, wow, I mean, like, I'm obsessed with you. But again, hearing sentences I'm like, it took you reading her memoir to realise that you should have hugged her more? I don't know. It's just... It's very interesting, this cycle we get in of wanting more transparency from our celebrities and then them giving it to us and us not really liking the truth and the transparency of it. I don't know. Anyway, I do still think I'm more Team Jada than I will ever be Will Smith, and you'll know that if you've read his memoir. And if you haven't and you're too lazy to, Celebrity Memoir Book Club did a really good episode on it, which I kind of think he showed us who he was in that memoir, and that was even pre-Oscar slap. So, tops of flops, just everyone who just doesn't know when to stay stum, you know what I mean? You'd know they've no Irish roots, as far as I'm aware, because you'd never get an Irish person ratting themselves out like this consistently, you know? The good old internalised Irish shame would kick in at some point and be like, here, maybe you should wished up, you know? But let me know, am I totally wrong on this? Do you have any strong opinions? Were they put in an impossible position because of who they are, what they represented in Hollywood, their love story? I don't know. Are you team anyone? Are you excited for this book? Are you going to read it? Do you think there's anything else more that can be said or shared? Let me know. It's helloflopculture@gmail.com. And as I said, we're on social media @flopculture_pod. Flop Culture returns next week for the final spooky edition, and we're heading to Black Hills Forest, girls. I'm excited. Until then, my name is Fionnuala Jones. This has been Flop Culture. Editing was done by Adam Shanahan. I will see you all next week. Bye.